Hi everyone. Welcome to our book club session here at the Virtual Village Hall. I'm Annabel and I'm here from Listening Books. We're the audiobook charity that does the author interviews here at the Virtual Village Hall usually, but today we are doing something a bit different. We're in the Olympic fever here at Listening Books, so we're going to be giving you some Olympics and Paralympics inspired book recommendations to go home and read or listen to. As I've mentioned, we are an audiobook charity. We're called Listening Books, and we provide audiobooks to anyone who has a disability, illness, learning difficulty, or mental illness that affects their ability to read or hold a book. And this is really wide ranging, so it can be anything from visual impairments, arthritis, depression, anxiety, anything that an audiobook would benefit you, you can sign up. Hi, Irene, I can see your comment. Hi, I hope you're well today. It's great to see people here. So if you do want to introduce yourself in the chat or where you're coming from, that would be great. It's really nice for me to see. I'm Annabelle, if anyone missed my little introduction, and I'm here from Listening Books, the audiobook charity. I'm live from London at the moment, but I am going on holiday tomorrow, so that's very exciting. I wonder if we have anyone in the audience who's in Paris at the moment at the Olympics. If you are, we're all very jealous, I'm sure, as I imagine everyone here today is kind of a sports lover, into the Olympics spirit. So yeah, it would be amazing to see if anyone is tuning in from there too. But today we're just going to be talking about some book recommendations you might like to give a go if you're a fan of athletics, sports, or the Olympics in general. We run these book club sessions usually on a specific author, but today we're going to cover loads of different themes, from autobiographies from Olympians, histories of the Olympic Games, and then also some kids' books and kids' non-fiction books if you're a parent or if you have any kids in your life who might be interested in reading or listening to some of these books as well. I'll get started in a couple of minutes' time just to give people a chance to join. But until then, it would be great to see some of you in the chat. We've got Irene saying hi, which is amazing. As well, if you have any kind of recommendations of your own throughout the session, I'd absolutely love to hear them. In our charity, we try and get as many books as possible that our members will be interested in. We're very member-led, so we take lots of requests from our members to see what they'd like to listen to, what they want to hear. So if you do have any books you can think of that you'd like to be added to our collection, or any recommendations that you think our members would enjoy, that would be amazing. I'll definitely take a note of them and pass them on to our team to add to our collection. We'll be talking about, I think it's probably around 30 plus books today, but we have loads more. We have over 8,000 books in our collection at the moment, and that's constantly growing. So as I said, if you do have any recommendations, it would be great to hear them to add to our collection. But we've been here for about 5 minutes now, so it might be a good time to get started with the recommendations. I do have a PowerPoint I'll be sharing with you all so you can see the covers. And as well, the team from the Virtual Village Hall will be posting the links to the books on our website throughout. All you need to do is join up to Listening Books. It's £20 a year, all free if this would be a barrier to joining. And you can listen to all of these books whenever, as well as thousands more. So I think we'll get started now with the recommendations. If the team want to make that a little bit bigger so everyone can see. Our first theme will be athlete autobiographies. We have a lot of these at Listening Books, as you can see on the screen, from all different kinds of athletes, past and present. We have two cyclists. We have Geraint Thomas and Chris Froome, who talk all about their journeys to becoming Olympic medalists and the challenges they've overcome. What's good about athlete autobiographies is that it's not all about the sport, even though I'm sure a lot of people do love to hear all about the sport. It also tells the stories of their lives. So in Chris Froome's book, for example, he talks about how he overcame injury, illness, and also dealt with grief from his mother passing away before his first Tour de France. It was only 5 weeks before his debut at the Tour de France. His mother sadly passed away from cancer. So he talks about dealing with that grief and how he overcame struggles to become an Olympic champion and win the Tour de France. That's a common theme with these athlete autobiographies, all about overcoming struggle, prejudice, discrimination. It's really inspiring. We hear from Muhammad Ali. Obviously, everyone here will know about Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest athletes of all time. In his book, he talks about overcoming discrimination, prejudice, and various other obstacles in his way to becoming, as I said, one of the greatest athletes of all time. You can see on the image Simone Biles' autobiography as well. I'm sure you've been seeing Simone Biles everywhere lately. She's won 4 medals, I think it is, at the Games. And there's that picture going around the internet of her holding all of these medals. She's so tiny and the medals take up about half of her. And it's just amazing, her story as well. So we definitely recommend giving that a listen. While it's a good listen for anyone, it's an amazing listen for all ages. So it's a great read or listen for young girls who might want to be inspired to go into sport, or really anything that there are challenges against them and they want to push themselves to achieve. Limitless here by Mallory Wegerman is also an amazing listen. Mallory is a Paralympic athlete from the United States. She actually became paraplegic in 2008, I think it was, after she had an epidural for back pain, and it left her paralyzed. But she did not let that stop her. She became a Paralympic swimmer, and she's gone ahead to win medals in the Tokyo Games and in the London Olympics as well. So that's a really inspirational listen if you're looking to something to inspire you to go and chase your dreams. As we hear about from Nicola Adams as well. You might all know Nicola Adams. She's quite a household name now. And her book really tells that story about how she pushed against defeat, prejudice, all kinds of things for her gender, her race, to becoming one of the most celebrated athletes in British history. She was actually the first woman to win at a boxing competition in the Olympics, which is honestly amazing to have her as part of Team GB, and we're really glad to have her audiobook in our collection as well. Also, Mo Farah, everyone will know him, the Mobot. This book tells the story of becoming a boy who moved over to Britain at the age of 8 with his twin brother from Somalia to becoming literally one of the most celebrated athletes of all time. These are just a selection of some of the autobiographies we have at Listening Books. We have loads more, whether that's athletes, musicians, comedians. If you have any recommendations of other athlete autobiographies, that would be great to hear, because, as I said, we're always looking to add new titles to our catalogue. So yeah, just let us know in the comments if you've read any other inspirational autobiographies by Olympians or athletes. We'd love to hear about it. So our next slide of recommendations is slightly different. It's kind of for you if you prefer to hear about the history of the Olympics. You want to really get into the why it's happened, all the different stories of the past. Maybe you love the Olympics, but you're not as big of a sports fan. You love the joy of it and the celebration. These books are for you. So our first book in the top left corner is the ration book Olympics, from when London hosted the Austerity Games. This was actually written and read by Claire Balding, who you might know from Olympic coverage, Wimbledon coverage, and so on. She's a pretty big name, and she has this amazing book all about when London, it was the second time London hosted the Olympics, and it was just after World War II. As you can imagine, rationing was still a thing. So it's incredible that London was able to come together to host the Olympic Games in this time. Claire even talks to Olympians from the time. I think it was in the ration book Olympics that Claire talks about were in 1944, I think it was, after, 1942. I think. Well, anyway, it was written as a celebration of London hosting the Olympics in 2012, as we all know. But obviously that was a very different experience to the Austerity Games. And Claire even managed to find some athletes that competed in the games back when it was 1948, the Russian Olympics. So it's amazing to hear from all of these Olympians who, from the past as well as from the present. We have a similar history of the Olympics in the 1980 Moscow Olympics, where Sue McGregor speaks to different athletes who competed or didn't compete in the 1980 Olympics due to the encouraged boycott by President Carter and Margaret Thatcher at the time. It was after, during the Cold War, when Russia invaded Afghanistan. So a lot of athletes were encouraged not to participate in the games. It was very controversial, and this book talks to some of the athletes from the time to learn more about what it was like to participate or not participate in those games and the different pressures, political pressures that came along with it. And then we kind of step a bit further back to For the Glory, The Life of Eric Liddell by Duncan Hamilton. You might have heard of Eric Liddell in a little film called Chariots of Fire, where Eric was immortalized forever. But Duncan Hamilton claims that this film only scratches the surface of Eric Liddell's amazing life. He was a campaigner for justice. He spent time in a prisoner of war camp, and that's only part of his life, as well as becoming an amazing runner who got the gold medal, and I think it was the 500 meters. So this book tells his entire story from, I think it was 1924. Eric Liddell was in the games. So that's a really amazing telling too. And if you love Chariots of Fire, you need to give this a listen, because it goes into so much more detail about the life of Eric Liddell. And then we go even further into the history of the Olympics than you can possibly even imagine. We're going back to the ancient Greeks in How to Teach Classics to Your Dog. This book is actually quite a funny one. It came about when the author, Philip Womack, was walking his dog, and he made a little joke about the classics. I think it was about Cicero or something. And he looked at his dog expecting a laugh back. And of course, the dog only said at him blankly. And Philip thought, how would I best teach classics to my dog? So he went around writing a book about it and explains the Greek and Roman classics in a way that's really easy to access. Even a dog could understand it, according to Philip. So this would be a great one if you'd like to learn a bit more about how it all began, the origins of the Olympic Games back in the day when they were competing in Greece for the gods. They would do it for. That's why it's called the Olympics, because they were competing to show their respect to the Olympians, the Olympic gods. And then, of course, we had to give a shout out to our patron here at Listening Books, Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry has been our patron for a long time now, and we're really grateful to have him. He's got these amazing books on Greek myth, as well as all of his comedy work. And just one of them is Heroes. And that tells you all about Greek heroes, like Hercules, for example, all of the heroes in myth that really inspired the original Olympic Games, that they heard all of these stories from the past about these epic displays of strength, resilience, power, and they started to use those to compete themselves and prove their worth to the Olympic gods. So this is another great book from Stephen Fry, also excellently narrated by Stephen. We're really lucky to have him as our patron, as a fantastic audiobook narrator. Some of you in the audience might know him from narrating the Harry Potter books. He's a fabulous narrator, and Heroes is no exception. And it's kind of even better when he's reading his own work, we like to think. But if we go on to the next slide now, this is a slide for the sports lovers. You might be here because you just love sport. It doesn't matter if it's the Olympics, doesn't matter if it's athletics, any sport you can get your hands on, you want to read about it, you want to listen to it. There are quite a few sports as well that aren't in the Olympic Games or have only just been added to the Olympic Games. So some of these books are great ways to learn more about those sports. We have first the Cycling Podcast, A Journey Through the Cycling Year. This takes you through all of the cycling competitions that there are, not just the Olympics. Obviously, that's only every other 4 years, but we have the Tour de France, the Vuelta, loads of different sports that we have these cycling experts talk about. And it's not just all about cycling. It also gives you some great ideas for holidays in the Netherlands and Belgium as you follow the races throughout Europe. And it has some pretty good beer recommendations as well, I've heard. So that might be a good one for you if you're interested in that. We also have another podcast recommendation, the Football Ramble. The hosts of this award-winning podcast, who they give an independent, unbiased view on football. They've come together to write a book and narrate an audiobook about the game that they love. And I'm sure we'll have some football fans in the audience who might be missing the football at the moment. Don't worry, there's not long left to go. But if you can't wait until the season begins, the Football Ramble would be a great way to get involved with football again before the season starts. And those are both available on Listening Books. We also have some slightly different books. We have Driven by Rosemary Smith, who is a pioneering American motorsports competitor. She broke through the gender barriers of motorsport racing, which, as I'm sure we can all imagine, is a very male-dominated sport. But Rosemary broke through those barriers to become a winner for some of the most famous rallies in the world, in Monte Carlo, for example. And this book tells her story. We also have Rugby Union, Wit, Wisdom and Mud, which is an incredible book again. It's something a bit different to the ones we've had before. It's kind of similar to the history books that we've been talking about. It goes through the BBC sound archives from decades back, and we hear it from some of the rugby legends in the rugby union world. We hear from Barry John, for example, the late Barry John, Gareth Edwards and Richard Burton, all about their love of rugby, all about the game. And I have picked those because I am Welsh. I didn't actually know the others that were contributing, but there were some really great other names, of course, as well as Richard Burton. It's always great to listen to him. And then we have The Push as well by Tommy Caldwell. This is an interesting one. Some of you might know that climbing was only introduced in the Olympics in 2020 in the Tokyo Games. So it's a relatively new sport into the Olympics. And Tommy Caldwell is one of the leaders in the sport of climbing. He's done some incredible things, climbed Yosemite, loads of different walls that I wouldn't even dream of going anywhere near. And he features in Free Solo, if you've seen that documentary, that it follows the journey of Alex Honnold as he free climbs up, I'm not sure of the name of it, but a massive rock face in America. He free climbs that without any equipment, which is incredible and scary, but Tommy Caldwell will tell you more about that in his book, The Push. It's not quite the same as the sports climbing we see in the Olympics, but it's incredibly interesting and incredibly scary too. But definitely a great listen if you've been watching the Olympics, you've seen the new sport of rock climbing, and you want to learn a bit more about it. Now we have sports fiction. Here at the book club, I'm sure a lot of you are fiction lovers rather than non-fiction, maybe both, but most book clubs do love some fiction books. So I picked some here for you. These are all sports fiction books that kind of have a themed around sports. Not necessarily the Olympics, but I'm sure we're all sports lovers here, and these will definitely help you to get into the sporty world and keep going with the athletics theme even after the Olympics has ended. First, we have Injury Time by Duncan Hamilton. You might recognize that name because Duncan Hamilton also wrote the book about Eric Liddell from The Chariots of Fire that we looked at on the history page. Duncan Hamilton is actually one of the most renowned sports writers in the world, and Injury Time is his first novel. So it's about kind of how football, the love of football takes over, how it's all encompassing being a football fan. I'm sure we'll have some football fans who will know just how important it is to you, or we might have some family members. I know, for example, of my dad and my brother, how obsessed they are with football, how it's all encompassing. And this book really pays testament to that, just how important football is for a lot of people. So if you're a football fan, definitely give that a read or a listen. It's a really good book. kind of similar to Fever Pitch by Nick Hornby. If you like that, it's a kind of more fictionalized version of that, but it does include lots of real life anecdotes, lots of real life players from England in I think the 90s, in about 2 decades within that period. So it's really interesting. If you're a football lover, definitely give that a recommendation. Now we have Beartown by Frederick Backman. This is also a sports themed one, but it's something a bit different, a bit more dark maybe. So it's a tiny little town in America, but they have a big dream. They have an abandoned old ice hockey arena, and no one's really played it for years. And then all of a sudden, this new team of young boys, middle schoolers, become amazing champions, national champions. And they get to the semi-finals of this national tournament, and there's a lot of pressure on these boys to sort of bring glory back to the town. So this book kind of follows those boys and the town as they deal with the pressure of being sports stars and what's this pressure that sports can give. This is a great one to really make you consider. Although the Olympics are amazing celebrations of sports, it's a really joyful time. There's also a lot of pressure and a lot of heartbreak for these athletes if sometimes it doesn't go their way. So this is a really good book that kind of looks at the dark side of sports. But then for something lighter, we have Carrie Soto is Back. You might have heard of Taylor Jenkins Reid. She wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. So if you've loved those books, you should definitely give Carrie Soto is Back a listen or a read. It follows Carrie Soto, who was one of the best tennis players in the world, fictionalized, of course. But then a young British tennis player comes along and steals away her world record. So Carrie Soto desperately tries to win back her world record. And there are a lot of twists and turns that come with that, good and bad. So definitely give that a listen if you're into Taylor Jenkins Reid and her books, or if you're a tennis lover. Then we have something a bit different again, a romance. We have these the Bergman Brothers romance series by Chloe Leese. It starts with Only When It's Us, which is what we have on the screen, but there are 5 of these books, and they all sort of revolve around this family, the Bergmans, who are amazing at loads of different sports, football, soccer, hockey, and they all end up having sort of like a romance on the field or on the pitch, wherever they are. So if you're into romance and you're into sports, this is the perfect series for you. Couldn't ask for anything better. And then finally, we have Holding Her Breath by Amy Ryan. Holding Her Breath is, again, something different. It's a mystery. So it revolves around a competitive swimmer who goes to university, and when she leaves for university, she begins to find lots of dark secrets about her family that she tries to unravel. It's a really good book, which again combines sport with another genre, with mystery, crime, thriller. So definitely recommend that one. For our Listening Books members, or if you want to join Listening Books, we also have an interview in our library with the author of Amy Ryan. So if you do know and love this book, or if you do go and listen to it and want to find out more, just head to our website and you can listen to our interview. So maybe the Olympics Games have inspired you to get into sports. I know for me, sitting and watching them on my sofa does kind of make me think I should be up there doing something. And we do have a lot of books in our collection as well that can help you with that, with your ambitions to go and get up and do some sports. We have 2 that are involved in swimming. So the Lido by Libby Page is perfect if you fancy heading down to your local Lido. I know it's been really hot the past few weeks, so maybe you have already. But Libby talks in this book about, it's a fictionalized book, but Libby is a swimmer herself, and it talks about the community that you can find in the Lido and with local swimmers, how it can help you to kind of feel better. The characters experience that sense of community as well. Then The Tidal Year by Freya Bromley. Freya talks about how she's dealing with grief from her brother passing away, and swimming really helped her to kind of cope with that, and how it helps a lot of people deal with challenges and make them feel better. We also have 2 running books. We have Jog On by Bella Mackie, How Running Saved My Life, and Run for Your Life by William Pullen. They are quite different. Bella Mackie writes from her personal experience about how running helped her deal with anxiety and depression, and she gives you lots of helpful tips about how to keep running and start running while still enjoying the things that you love. While William Pullen is the inventor of DRT, dynamic running therapy. So it's a way that you can be mindful while you're running and kind of connect that runner's high that people experience to your emotions, and channeling that high into being mindful and really experiencing your emotions. So that's a really interesting read or listen if you're already a runner and would love to kind of make that into a more mindful experience. We also have The Art of Resilience by Ross Edgley. Now, Ross Edgley has done some incredible things. He was the first person in the world to swim around the British Isles. He's also ran a marathon while pulling a truck or a car behind him, and he's climbed a rope the same height as Mount Everest. So he knows a thing or two about resilience. So if you're looking for ways to become more resilient, to deal with challenges in sports, if you can't get past that wall, maybe give this a listen, because he gives lots of tips from his own experience, or and with the help of psychologists as well, about how to push past those barriers, those boundaries that you have in your mind, and keep on going. This is just one example of a great self-help book we have at Listening Books, but if you have any more ideas, it would be great to hear them in the comments. We're always looking for new recommendations for kind of self-help and mindfulness books too, so do let us know. So that's we've come to the end of our adult books, and I do have a few for children as well, in case you haven't, if there are any kids watching, or if you're a parent with some very listless children at home over the summer, maybe you want them to start reading or getting into an audiobook. Here we have some inspiration for children. We have Women in Sport, 50 Fearless Pioneers Who Played to Win. This is a great book about some female athletes throughout history who broke the barriers and became champions in their sports, which is a great example for young girls to show that they can do anything. Another book that gives an example to young girls is Roar by Beth Mead, who was one of the lionesses that took England to victory in the Euros. Beth tells young people, not just girls, boys as well, how to dream big and achieve their dreams, and also how they can apply what they learn on the pitch or in sports halls into success in their own life. So really transferring those sports skills into skills as they're growing up and socializing and going to school, things like that. So that's a really great one from Beth Mead. We also have more inspirational books for kids of Be Amazing from Sir Chris Hoy and You Are a Champion from Marcus Rashford. These are books that really help kids to follow their goals and be the best they can be, in the words of Marcus Rashford. They have really good tips on how to keep going and keep achieving your dreams. Chris Hoy talks from his own experience of never believing that he would achieve his childhood dream of winning an Olympic medal, to becoming a gold medalist in cycling. Then we also have Just Like Me by Louise Gooding. This is an amazing book, especially as we're leading into the Paralympic Games, to show children amazing examples of neurologically and physically diverse people who broke the stereotypes. We have some sports stars in this book. We have Simone Biles, who actually has ADHD, and Usain Bolt, who had scoliosis as a child. A lot of people don't know that, and how they overcame these difficulties or these challenges to become sports superstars. And then finally, we have sports fiction for kids as well. These are great examples too. We have Air by Monica Rowe, which talks about a young girl as she aims to kind of soup up her wheelchair to become a WCMXer, which is like a combination of wheelchair and BMX. So that's all about her journey to do that. We have The Couch Potato, which is a great book for the very young children. I know screen time is a concern for a lot of parents now, especially in the holidays, trying to give kids something to do. that involves not looking at a screen or going out and playing outside. And the couch potato really instills the value of doing that to children. We also have Booked by Kwame Alexander, who is an amazing author with loads of other books like The Crossover, which is a great example, again, of children overcoming any obstacles to achieve their dreams. And then we have some other great examples of Horse and Not If I See You First, for kids who may be a bit older. So we are coming to the end of our session now. So I'll just give you some information about Listening Books. As I said at the beginning, in case you missed it, we are a charity and membership costs only £20 a year, or it can be free if you would find this a barrier to joining. And with that membership, you have access to all of the books I've just talked about, for books of all ages and all interests, over 8,000 books. It's for anyone who has a learning difficulty, disability, mental illness, or disability that affects their ability to read. So I'll show you our website now. And if you do want to sign up, just head to our website and log on through there, or give us an email at our email address or a phone call. Thank you, Irene. Thanks for your comment. I hope you have a great holiday too, if you're heading away anywhere. I know I am tomorrow. I'm very excited. And I might be giving one of these books a listen as well. So thank you everyone for joining. It's been really good to talk to you about these books. And if you do want to sign up to Listening Books, just again, head to our website or give us an email and we'll get back to you. Okay, thanks everyone. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.